Now we're ready to start the animation process. I've imported my can and I'm going to line up the arm with the position of the can I've chosen. And to do so, I could move the ship wherever I want with the ring by selecting that ring we put in and then clicking on this little red line. And that's going to allow me to move the arm wherever I want. Now we're going to animate it from off the left to come over to the can. It's going to stop for 20 frames and then move on. I'll select the ring, making sure my playback head is at frame 1 in my timeline. And now I'll just drag it off to the left. These keyframes, we can move them afterwards to give us more time if we need it. So the distance you move, it doesn't have to be too precise. Now what I'm going to do is, with that ring selected, I'm going to go over and I think I'm going to name this ship so I know that it represents the whole capsule. And I'm going to click and drag through Translate XYZ, and then I'll right click and choose Key Selected. And just like our planets, we're seeing those red boxes. We'll see a corresponding red line in our timeline at frame 1. Now we're going to move to frame 80. I can punch the number in here if I chose, or you could just manually drag there if you wanted by just clicking and dragging in the timeline. Now I'll grab the ship and I'll drag it so that it looks like it's around the can. So if I were to zoom in, I'm looking for something like that. So just make sure that you've scaled the can to fit inside that little claw we made. Now you'll see a corresponding red line there. So if we were to go ahead and play that by clicking on our little white triangle or holding down the Option or Alt key and hitting the letter V, our ship is going to come in and just stop right where that can is. And that's where we want it. I'll stop it by clicking on that red box now. But I want to be able to have it hold so that the can kind of latch on to this before it moves on. You're going to notice that when the ship is selected, you'll notice that there are the red lines to the keyframes. That allows us to go down to the lower right-hand corner of the application. And because that keyframe is forward in the timeline, here's the first one, and we're back by frame 5 in this instance. If I were to go ahead and click on that little triangle with the vertical orange line, you'll see it snaps right to it. So it's very precise, and it's going to stop there for me. I'm going to shift and drag across the frame at 80, right-click, hold my mouse down, and choose Copy. I'll now advance to frame 100. Right-clicking in the timeline, I'll go to Paste and click on the word Paste. Now I'm going to move my playback head to frame 200, and I'll just drag the ship somewhere off the right. So if we were to play this now, by clicking on the little triangle or Option or Alt V on the keyboard, it's going to play, stop for the 20 frames, and then move on. Now we'll have the capsule pick up the can. Let's move to frame 90. And I'm going to make sure that in the upper left-hand corner, I've chosen Animate instead of Rigging or Modeling. And I'm going to select the bottom part of the arm where the claw is. Then I'm going to shift select the can. I'll now go to Constrain and click on Parent. Now you'll notice some blue boxes next to Translate and Rotate, but we need to access a thing called Parent. Now if I hit S on the keyboard, it adds keyframes for scale, visibility, and then you'll see Blend Parent 1. Now, if it says 1, I would change it to 0. Mine says 0. You'll see it has also introduced a keyframe for that function. Now I'm going to move forward just one frame. And I'm going to do that by clicking on this little white triangle with the white line. Now I'm at frame 91. I'll go to the channel box now, and where it says Blend Parent 1, I'll change that 0 to 1. So essentially, if we were to play our animation now, the ship would come in, pick up the can, and move on. I'm going to add one last detail to this. I would like the arm to be in a different position and actually reach out and grab the can when the time comes. So I'll select the can, and I'll navigate to frame 90 to make sure that I am precise. And I'm going to select the brown line which allowed us to articulate the arm. So at frame 90, with that IK kinematics selected, I'll I'll change the background color again so it's easier to see. I'll click on the brown line. Then in the channel box, I'll marquee select Translate XYZ, and I'll right click and choose Key Selected. Now I'll move back to about frame 80, and I'll just move that into a position where maybe it's folded and down a little. And then when it comes to the ship, it'll pick up the cannon and go. Last thing I need to do is animate the propeller. I'll put my playback head at frame 1. I'll select my propeller, making sure I've frozen the transforms and centered the pivot, deleted the history. It's going to rotate on the x-axis. In the channel box, I'll right-click on Rotate X, choose Key Selected, I'll move to frame 50. I'll put in 360. And I want this to continue rotating, so I'll go to the Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor, the same graph editor we've been using. I want this to rotate consistently, so I will marquee select the keyframes and the red line in between. I'll click on the little orange line with the box in the upper left-hand corner, and then in the graph editor, under Curves, Post Infinity Cycle.